Hello and welcome to another development diary for Mongoose Traveler on Foundry Virtual Tabletop. This session I'm going to be looking at a few of the new features that are being released in 0.15.5 of the system. So first of all, a small fix, something suggested, well, inspired by a question from Mockery on Discord. So if we take a look at weapons, since the start they've had a little note section, and if we make an attack, that will get output as part of the chat message. So it can be a little reminder to something special about the weapon, or something the damage does, or something like that. So what I've done is basically allow you to now put macros within that notes. So previously you could put macros in the text. So if you wanted to have skill checks to say resist poison or do extra damage, you could put that into the descriptive text. But if you put it into the notes, it wouldn't be usable. So I've now made that enriched text, which means if you put macros in there and we make an attack, so we can see we've got macro links there. So if we click on the resist poison, it will bring up a dialog box to make a resist poison check, and we can roll on there and get a result. So you can do those effects directly from there. We can cause damage. So make a damage roll, and that's damage int. We will pull that onto there. We can see it's done 6 damage to int. We can apply that, and Adam will take 6 damage. Obviously, he's just shot himself or something clever like that. The next thing I'm going to take a look at is the trade system. So I had a look at this in the last video, and I went over how the speculative trade was going to work. Well, this is pretty much done now, so I am releasing this into the wild. So this should be part of the next update which you receive. There's not a huge amount changed on here. I've made some bug fixes and things, but it's pretty much working as it was before. So where work has been done is on speculative trade. So if we take another world, drag Topaz down onto here, and we create freight lots as before, but we will now also create passengers. Now, freight lots work much the same way. So it will come up with the expected payment, the world it's going to. We can say yes, we'll buy it, and we'll put out a chat message as a record of the purchase. But it's not really for freight, it's not actually a purchase, so your cash doesn't go down. You're contracted to carry it. You'll get paid for it when it gets delivered. I'm not sure how it's meant to work in the rules, but the assumption that I make is for freight, you'll get paid when the shipment of freight is delivered at the far end, and for passengers, you'll get paid when they board. For speculative goods, we take a look at these. So we've got a cash of just over 1 million there. We can choose how much we want to buy, and when you buy it, it will deduct the cost of your goods at that point, and then it will pay you when you sell them at the destination you're selling them at. So different types of goods will pay you and deduct money from you at different points of the cycle. So back to freight. Yeah. major lots and incidental lots and things as before. For passengers, things are slightly different. So you've got low passage, basic passage, middle passage, and high passage. I don't take account of the steward skill aboard the ship, and I don't take account of whether you have high class staterooms. That's something that's still on the list of things that needs to be done. I also don't keep track of how many staterooms you actually have and whether you can fit all the passengers on board. I don't know yet how I'm going to work that out. I mean, you can have 2 passengers or possibly more to a stateroom if you want. How many rooms do the crew take up? I mean, if are Bobby and Alice sharing a room? Are they not? Do I need to assign people to staterooms? I'm not quite sure how to handle it in a way that's not really complicated. So for now, it's just, yeah, you should know how many passengers you can fit on board, and it just assumes that you will do the right thing. So we can pick up some passengers. So as with freight, you can drag them onto your ship. It will tell you, yep, this is middle passage, available staterooms 0. Well, because we're not actually counting that. What the ticket price is. So that's 14,000 per person. All right, okay, that's a 3 parsec jump. So yeah, that's a reasonably expensive ticket price. And how many do you want to fit on? And it will tell you how much you're going to make if you do that. So let's take on 4 middle passengers, embark them, and what we've got here are 4 passengers. And notice they've all got names. We've got the destination there, their ticket price, what type of passage they have, and we have a species and a profession for them. So there's some generation going on here in terms of the details of them, and I'll come to that later. And actually, if you click on them, we'll see that these are actually NPCs. So whilst passengers are on the world, they are an item of type world data. So world data is a general catch-all type of item which fills all sorts of roles, rather than having a different item type for everything you can attach to a world. I've just got one type and it's flexible. It makes it a bit cleaner in some respects because I don't want a huge drop down list of all the different item types when you create items. So we have a world data item, and that can be passengers. But when you create them to a spacecraft, because I've already got handling for handling actors being crew and passengers of spacecraft, I figured the easiest way of doing it was actually to make them NPCs. I say easiest, cleanest, more consistent. So where do these NPCs come from? They're automatically generated. And if we take a look at our Actors tab, we have an NPC Passengers folder here. This is automatically created, and the NPCs are placed in here, and they've got a whole set of skills, they have a description, and they have a set of randomly generated stats. As I said, I'll come to details on that a bit later. So ship flies to Topaz. We go to Topaz, and then we can drag them across, and we get an option to disembark passengers. Though you drag one passenger across, it will actually disembark all the passengers who are going to that destination. We click yes. Passengers leave the ship, and they are also deleted from this folder. So these are temporary NPCs that are being generated. We don't just keep on generating more and more NPCs as time goes on. So we could grab some low passengers. Let's grab a couple of high passengers. And yeah, we do actually have different professions for high passage and low passage, etc. We've got a BWAP here, merchant, an agent, veteran. Veteran has some gun combat skills, etc. And we've got some low class cleaners and things. They'll tend to have a lower SOC than the high class passengers. So there's a bit of intelligence going on there. Now we might decide that, say, this RUAP is a bit more interesting than just a passenger. So the GM can drag them out of that folder and they'll appear down here. You can sort of file them away wherever the GM wants to. Then when we go to Topaz, you arrive at the destination. Rohab, it will be disembarked along with everyone else, but the actual NPC won't be deleted. So if you want to keep NPCs around, then you can just move them out of that folder. Now, you may be asking, why is Ashley Jackson still left behind? Well, I'd like to say something clever here, but actually I've just discovered a bug which I fixed. And yeah, Ashley can be dragged across and will be removed. But yeah, so by default, passengers will be created and deleted, but you can drag them out of that NPC passengers folder if you want to keep them for next time. If you don't have a passengers folder, it will be automatically created when the first set of passengers are moved across. So everything else about the trade system is much the same as it was in the last video. A few changes that have been made is it's now possible for a non-GM player to make use of the trade system. So if we have a player who doesn't have ownership permissions on a world, then they can still drag trade goods to it to sell those goods. They can still drag trade goods and passengers from it to buy them. What's being done behind the scenes is we're using sockets to emit a message, and this will be picked up by the GM player, and the GM player will actually execute the code to add and remove items from the world. So even if a player doesn't have permissions to edit a world, then as long as they're going through the sort of controlled interfaces of moving cargo to the world or moving passengers to the world, then they can still do that without the GM having to do it for them. As long as the GM is online, logged in to that Foundry session, they can just let players get on and do all the trade stuff themselves. That includes adding, dropping actors in to set up broker skills and streetwise skills. Players do not see the speculate button, and players can't drag worlds in. So it's still up to the GM to set up the price of goods. The idea there is this is something the GM will do when players come into a system. they'll set up all the prices and the goods available just by dragging things in and clicking some buttons. Then the players can't accidentally redo things in order to get better prices or something like that. They're stuck with the prices at that world, which the GM set when they did the work of setting things up. But for the most part, in terms of having a look at what things are cheap and sort of deciding which freight to buy, which passengers to take, it's up to the players to do all that. Now, one thing you can't do is when we drag these passengers in, it's not possible to see who the passengers are before you drag them in. So it's a bit of a crapshoot there. You can't say, "Oh, no, don't like the sound of them. I'm not going to allow them on board." You're just taking a number of passengers. You're taking them on board. You'll find out details about them once you sold them your tickets. And I mean, you could always get rid of them by deleting them. I guess if you do that, I should deduct the ticket price from your cash reserves. Currently, there's nothing stopping players just deleting these NPCs after taking their money. But yeah, that's something to think about at a later time. So basically, that's where a lot of the work's been doing, is getting the passenger system working and finishing off the freight trade system. Okay, so the final thing to take a look at is, where do these NPCs come from? As I said, these NPCs are automatically generated. They have a set of characteristics. They've got a species set, their gender and profession set. They have a set of skills. They have a biography. In this case, a passenger from New Bern to Topaz, and a business person on a business trip. Where does this information actually come from? How is it generated? So probably way too much effort was put into doing all this, by the way, but I understand that. But it was sort of fun, and I do enjoy writing sort of procedural generation systems and things. So so let's actually take a look at here. So we've now, as part of the set of packages, which compendiums, which are available in the main system, a new one has been added, which is base tables. So if we take a look at that, we have an NPC Generator folder, and in here we have a number of tables. Before I look at these, though, I'm going to cheat a little bit and take a look at some simpler versions of what I actually have to make it a bit easier to explain. So when we generate an NPC, we basically look for a folder called NPC Generator. We look for that within the role tables tab. If it doesn't exist there, we fall back to the one in the compendium. And the first one we look for is one called species, and this will have a list of species, and you basically just roll on that table and select a species. Given the result from that, we will then go looking for a gender table, and we will randomly select a gender. We just have male and female. If you have an alien species with lots of different genders, or you want a more complicated set of human genders, you can do that. You can set up whatever you want. I'm just keeping things relatively simple here. If one thing you will notice, we've got a gender Aslan, So though we don't have Aslan as a species, what it will actually do is it will look for gender species name. If it doesn't find that, it falls back to gender. So for Aslan, we've actually got a weighting of 3 on female. So it's sort of assuming the majority of Aslan looking for passage aboard spaceships are probably going to be female. Whether that's accurate for the background or not, I don't know, but I just put that in there as a potential believable example. So we set up a gender, and if once we've got that, we'll once we've done that, we'll generate a name, and then finally we generate a profession. So here we've got a list of professions, and we'll randomly select one from that list. Again, you can have a bigger profession list as you want with whatever weighting factors you want. You can also have a table called profession low or profession high or middle or basic. So profession high contains a list of professions high passengers will have. Profession low is a list of professions low passengers will have. If the system doesn't find one named for the particular level of passage, then it just falls back to standard profession. So in this case, basic and middle passengers all use the same table. High passengers use one, and low passengers use their own. For names, so we take a look at Soleimani. So we have a table called name, then the species, then the gender. So if we so Matthew is male, so we would have gone to name Soleimani male. Taking a look at here, we can see what we've got is a slightly different format. It's starting to get slightly messy here. We've got actually, if we go to male, that's editable, so it's slightly easier to see. We've got exclamation mark, name Soleimani first male, then exclamation name Soleimani family, and we've also got name Soleimani first male, another first male, and then family. So if you want a first name, middle name, and family name, it will have the option of that. And but again, you can play with the weighting factors. So what's happening here, and in fact what's happening with all of these, is that we're doing a bit of processing on the result that comes back. So we don't just read the result that comes back from the table. We split it into tokens, which is basically each word. If the word starts with an exclamation mark, then what we do is we go, oh, right, so this is actually a reference to another table. Underscores are changed into spaces. So we're looking for a table called name Soleimani first male. We'll open that up, and this just has a list of names. We'll select something from this table and replace this word with whatever comes back. And then we look for a family name. We look at that, lots of family names there. We replace that. So what we end up with is a name from the first name table, a name from the family name table, and that's the result that gets passed back, and which gets set as the name of the character. So it's relatively straightforward. It's just a little bit messy in terms of having to put in these exclamation marks and things, but it allows. I did initially start writing something in JavaScript to randomly generate names, but that means I've got to do it. And if people have their own settings, or want to add in support for Aslan or Varga or Hivers or whatever, it means they've got to write some JavaScript in order to do that. Doing it this way, it's as I said, slightly messy, and adding in all these names is a bit of a pain, but it's doable by pretty much anyone. You don't need a lot of technical skill to be able to do it. All you need to know is you put in an exclamation mark and the name of the table, and it will go and pick a result from that table. As long as these tables are within the NPC Generator folder, it will find them. Basically, it looks through the list until it finds a table with the right name and uses that table. If you've got a NPC Generator folder here, so this one's been renamed NPC Generator 2, so it's not actually using this one. I mean, you can just copy that into your own world and start playing around with it as much as you want. Again, we've got one for WAPs, which take a short name and followed by an official name, and Vilani, yeah, we've got a list of Vilani names there. So it's all pretty much the same, except for this last one, where we don't have an exclamation mark, but we have a dollar little hat symbol and then Vilani word. So what's this doing? So what's that saying is go look for the Vilani word table. Now that in this case is hidden under vocab. So these icons, by the way, are just icons I came up with just to differentiate between what's being generated. I might change these to the text icons, but anyway. So this Vilani word table consists of a $Vilani pattern, and various other variants. So we could have 2 patterns, 3 patterns, or 4 patterns. Now, dollar is doing exactly the same as what exclamation mark was doing, with the exception, or at least the addition, that whatever it inputs or whatever it gets back, it removes all white space from it. So what we've got here is a pattern followed by a space followed by a pattern. What will be returned from this result is a simple pattern, no space in between. We need to do this because it's a feature of the way I tokenize everything. I break everything up by white space. So rather than rewriting things to be a bit more complicated, it was easier just to have a different symbol for take the results and squash them together into a single word. And the little hat symbol, what that does is it capitalizes the first letter of that word. So we're capitalizing whatever comes back. Vilani word, no, Vilani path, that's Vilani word. Vilani pattern consists of, sort of Vilani C, Vilani V, Vilani C, Vilani V, Vilani C. Anyone who's seen the random name generators in other editions of Traveller, I know GURPS have quite a few. I've actually implemented some of them previously, which is where I think this, I don't know whether they started it or whether it's been done previous to that, but GURPS Traveller was where I first saw this way of generating things. At least if you exclude the AI courses I did in Prolog back in the 90s. But yeah, this is how GURPS Traveller did it, and it seems to vaguely work well enough. So Vilani, as I was saying, if you've seen how these things have been done before, you can probably guess what these 2 tables consist of. C consists of a list of consonants. V consists of a list of vowels. So what this is basically doing is saying, get me a random consonant, get me a random vowel. This one, say a consonant, a vowel, a consonant. And it will choose random consonants and vowels. passes them back to this table, which will remove any white space. And then you'll get a couple of patterns there, and then that will get passed back to Vilani word, which will again remove white space, capitalize the first letter, and you now have a randomly generated Vilani name. And actually, we can see how it behaves. If I click here, we have a randomly generated word or name. And what we've got here, if you have a look at this macro, there is a generate text function which you can call, and that calls out to Vilani name, and it will just get the result, and then this bit just outputs it to the chat. So we have a way of randomly generating names for alien species. Now, there's no reason why this can't be expanded to support Aslan or Hivers or Join or anything else. You just need a suitable set of distributions for vowels and consonants, and you can pretty much just copy the Vilani roll tables and stick in the ones for your favorite alien species of choice. These don't have to all be in a folder by themselves. I've just done that for readability, really. But as I said, as long as they're all under the NPC Generator folder, it will look for the one in the world. If it doesn't find that, it will fall back to the one in the compendium. So that's how we're randomly generating names for our passengers. However, we're not just generating names, and we're not just generating, we're not just filling in these things here. We're also doing things like setting characteristics and also setting skills. So how's that being done? The answer is pretty much the same way. So for the characteristics, we're generating an average set of characteristics. That's what you get if we click that off. If you shift click on here, as it says shift for average, control for vary. So if we hold down control, there's a small chance that each of these will sort of vary by +1 or -1. If you hold down shift, we go for an average set. And what we do with that average set is we actually roll each characteristic 5 times. We take the middle one and we set it to that. So you could get a 2, you could get a 12. It's unlikely. I'll switch that off again. So that's just using that facility, which has been around for a while. But we're also doing some other things. So if we have a look at the actual species that I ship as part of the system, you can see we're not just setting Solomani or Vilani or WAP. We have a number of things in here. And actually, what I'm going to do, just to make this a bit more readable. So what we're doing, and I'll split this into lines. So we've got the name of the species we want, and then we've got these things in square brackets. So if when I'm going through all this and tokenizing it, and so let's what actions keep above others? Right, okay. So that's not working when, okay. So when I'm going through these, tokenizing this, if we find something in square brackets, we take it as a skill modifier. And what you can just say, I mean, you could just say admin +1. What that would do is add 1 to the admin skill for that NPC. And since we've got +0s here, we're basically saying, yeah, set them to 0. If you've got a list of skills, split by the pipe symbol, what this is saying is choose one of these skills randomly and set it to 0. So what we can say is choose for Soleimani, one of admin, electronics, and profession will be set to 0. One of carouse, persuade, and gambler will be set to 0, and one of athletics, art, streetwise, or drive will be set to 0. What we can also do is put in a characteristic. Basically, anything in all in caps and 3 letters long is considered to be a characteristic. These can be plus something and minus something as well. And these will modify your characteristic. So if you've got someone who is in low passage, you might want to reduce their SOC. If you've got people in high passage, you might want to increase their SOC. But otherwise, basically, it allows you to set skills based on their species. And rather unsurprisingly, we can also do the same for the professions as well. Now, if we go back to here, we've got our entertainer. They get +2 to Dex, they get +2 to Art, and we have a hash symbol here and an entertainer looking for work. Basically, anything after the hash is considered to be part of the description. So this will be added to the NPC's description field. If you really want to, you can also put something in double curly brackets after that hash, and this will be added as a secret block in the description, so players won't be able to see this. Be aware players can still view possibly. You might need to set them to be can't be viewed by players, maybe. I haven't tried playing around with that, but if players have access to this, then it might be obvious to see who is which ones are likely to be a spy, but they won't know for sure, and they won't be able to see it in the description block. But yeah, so you can modify the skills on an NPC based on what their profession is. And you can actually do this in anything. These things won't be added as part of the actual value. So even though we've got office worker here, this is probably this one, business person on a business trip, or they could be business person on a business trip, actually a secret agent. In this case, they're not actually a secret agent. I don't know whether we have anyone who is a secret agent. Oh, yeah, so this one is actually a secret agent. If you look at this as a normal player, then you won't see this block of text. But basically, this allows you to do some very basic random generation of NPCs as they're brought in as passengers. And you're not limited to only using this during passenger creation. If you want to, you can use it yourself as well. So if we take a look at this, let's get rid of that, edit macro. If we grab an NPC actor, then we can call generate NPC on that, and So we've got this generate NPC function that's available through the game.mg2te from macros and scripts. And this is the name of the folder. So though the passenger stuff always uses NPC Generator, you can have your own set of package names, or basically folder names within the role tables section, and you can generate your own random NPC. So if you just want an NPC, you could write something relatively easily. And actually, I do have this documented. If we go to characters, NPC generator, I think I've got an example here. Yeah, so you don't actually need to have an actor which is passed to here, and it's assumed they're not yet an actor. So you can generate a block of NPC data with some basic information on there, then call generate NPC on that NPC data block, and then call actor create to actually create that actor. And that should actually have an await there because it's an asynchronous function, but this does allow you to, if you want to set up macros to randomly generate patrons or thugs or something like that, you can do that. There isn't a way to add items, equipment items to the NPCs yet via this method. It would be possible. If anyone feels that this would be useful, then you can do that. Generally, I've used the packages feature to do that. So when you set up a package and then drag that onto an NPC or traveler, and that will add in skills and any items of equipment that they have. But this is a different way of doing that. And as you can see, we've got this does detail everything which can be done. So yeah, and you can also, as a special use case, you can also edit the age by putting age, in this case, plus 2d6. So the other ones have to be hard-coded values. They can't be dice values, at least not yet. But for age, you can put in a random age to add in. Yeah. So what we have here is we have a set of high class professions, set of low class professions, set of standard professions, and some very basic name generators for Soleimani and Vilani. And yeah, so these are the options you get when you randomly generate passengers, or at least when the system randomly generates passengers. So I'll probably be expanding upon this, but if anyone else has ideas of what they want to add, want to create them themselves, and if you want to send me what you've done, I'd be quite happy to sort of add in more extensive things. I know there is a table in the core rules for random passenger creator. Well, it's more a sort of list of random professions of passengers. This is different from that because this goes into a bit more detail, but it's got fewer options. Okay, so yeah, this I probably spent a bit more time than is necessary on this, but I just sort of got the bug, as it were, and decided it'd be a fun thing to write. And so we now have random NPC generator, and it'd be interesting to see how people use it and what you think of it. Okay, that's about it for now. So as I said, 0.15.5 will be going out later on today. I've just fixed a few minor bugs as I've been doing this video. Hopefully that's caught everything, at least everything major. Yeah, whether that goes out before this video or after this video, I don't know yet. But thank you for listening, and enjoy playing Traveller on Foundry.